Great, thank you.
Are you recording this on there?
On there, we have to record it on this now. Maybe Brian can tell us about himself real quick.
Yeah, I've been in some form of Parks and Recreation for almost 30 years now. That makes me feel really old when I say that out loud.
Yeah.
Get used to that. and my background is in Parks and Recreation facilities and general aviation airports. So when I was a kid, my family used to come up here and the powerboating group and go around San Juan Islands, and we docked here at Oak Harbor a few times, and so a lot of fond memories. Marina management's new to me. A lot of the concepts are very similar to running a general aviation airport, but Steve is so dang likable and patient. He's been great to work with, getting me kind of up to speed on where we are with the harbor dredging project.
Who has been helping?
Chris.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
Steve. Yeah, Chris. I mean,
Just don't call me later.
Steve's nice too, but Chris is better. Yeah, we have a lot of Steves here. But Chris has been absolutely great and getting me up to speed, and really excited for the potential of what we can do with the marina. Look forward to letting my expertise and how we can get funding to kind of get the vision rolling forward for bringing updates to the marina. So excited to be with you guys, and hopefully I can be a good resource to you.
Cool. And your history is primarily in Colorado, is that right?
Colorado, Utah, Wisconsin. Yeah.
Where'd you run an airport?
In Global Springs. Yeah, the Global Springs Airport.
It was a city.
Yeah, municipal airport, general aviation. So our aviation board was made up of pilots that had hangars, and very similar to the marina in a lot of ways. So kind of interesting.
Was that one of the airports the Barefoot Bandit came through? It came through something in Colorado.
It did, yeah.
Never mind.
Colton,
Right.
Colton something.
Have you heard of
Free
it?
over there on Camino Island, right?
free.
Yeah.
Camino Island.
Yeah.
What was he, 17 years old or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah.
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 Learned how to fly planes and stole them. And
Stole planes and boats all
Yeah.
around. You know what part of his sentence was? He cannot write a book. He cannot write a movie. He cannot profit from this in any way.
Well, twice.
Probably working somewhere else.
Logged off areas, which is amazing that he survived, but he did.
Yeah.
Pretty,
And then he had a cross-country trip in stolen planes, jumping from private airport
That was pretty colorful.
airport to general.
Can we take a minute and just go around the room and reintroduce yourself and say how long you've been in the marina and what your background is, like Navy?
Okay, I'll start. I've been on this committee for 12 years or something like that. Been in the marina off and on, but mostly on since early 2000s. And the yacht club was
We all are.
pretty much. Yeah. And I don't know, just been, I grew up in Port Angeles and grew up boating with my family, mostly salmon fishing and stuff like that. Any sort of critter was part of the food chain as far as my dad was concerned. So, spent a lot of time digging clams and catching crab and salmon and halibut and whatever else was out there and available. That's about it. And that's
So I'm Ryan Bradley, member of the yacht club. I've been in the marina since 2007, something like that, 7, 8, somewhere like that. We have 2 sailboats over there. We live on our sailboat, on one of them anyway. And I'm finishing up 25 years in the Navy.
Nice. Okay. How long have you been on the advisory?
About a year.
I'm JJ Jones. I'm a retired naval aviator. Flew airplanes here for 25 years. I've been in the marina for 22 years. I've been in Oak Harbor for over 40 years. And I've been on this committee, not quite as long as Ken, but almost quite as long as Ken. And I think this is fantastic. We're very lucky that we have this resource. We just gotta make it survive.
Byron Scooby, I'm a retired orthopedic surgeon, and I've been attending the Marina continuously since 1980.
And since the rocks were hot.
I'm the second oldest, second longest tenured.
Are you a liveaboard?
No, but I just, I've always had a multiple number of boats.
Is Jerry the only one who's been in the marina longer than you?
Yeah. And I've just been on this committee for one previous meeting, but attended a number
He
of
was
them.
typically our only member of the public that consistently attended these meetings. And we treated him like part of the committee for a long time.
I've been coming to these meetings pretty regularly since
Yeah.
early 2000s.
Which treating him like a committee member means no respect.
So Paul, so Chris has told me a little bit about you, but would you mind just telling me a little bit about your background?
Absolutely, yeah. I started BST Associates in 1986 after working for about 10 years with big engineering firms. URS Corporation, TAMS, Kramer, Chin and Mayo, and they all did the design work and I did the planning work, and had a client that's asked me just to come and work for him. So I figured this was the time to launch my own business. That was the same year our daughter was born, so it was kind of exciting at that time, making sure we could feed her and my wife. But most of my work's in waterfront. I'm part of the Northwest Marine Trade Association that puts on the Seattle Boat Show. I'm the vice chair. In July, I'll become the chair of the board. And I've worked on most of the public marinas and many of the private marinas from Alaska through a couple in BC, but mostly here in Washington State, a lot of work in Oregon and a fair amount in California. So we do economic analyses, demand studies, market capture, rehab of marinas, and financial plans, business plans.
Very nice.
So the one that I've done most recently with Moffett Nickel, who is now helping the city with the dredging issue, is the Des Moines Marina. A lot of similarities. And that's really the problem for all marinas right now, is they were basically built 50 years ago. The size of the fleet was different. The cost to build was different. Geez, we're working on the Columbia River Bridge too, doing a navigation report for that to try and get the navigation permit. And the cost of that bridge now in 10 years it's more than doubled. I think it's coming close to like 250%.
Wow.
Yeah, just heard today it was $6 billion.
$6 billion. And there's going to be contentions with it, as there always are in those big projects. But so at any rate, that's kind of what I do. We've worked in Bellingham and Blaine and Anacortes and La Conner and Everett and Edmonds and almost all the marinas. Yeah.
Those marinas that Paul just mentioned are pretty much the universe as far as competition, if we will. And Des Moines is the only municipal saltwater marina, I think, in the state.
But it is, we always talk about the fact that us and Des Moines are similar. But,
Not at all.
not at all similar. Go right outside the gate in Des Moines is a real city. And not that we don't have a real city here, but, there's a restaurant out there.
Larger.
Yeah. There's a coffee shop. You can get a cup of coffee outside the gate. Thank you.
I should always get a cup of coffee.
It's from the full service marina.
There's a water hose at the top of the bar.
No, I'll make you.
Not that's freezing.
So to get to the agenda, we don't have any public comment this evening. This is for the record, the December 12th meeting of this committee. Review of the minutes from the last meeting. So it probably sounds like somebody has. most of the, what we did was, all talked about making progress so far.
Move that we accept the minutes as submitted.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Accept them as submitted. So the Marine Business Plan, questions and answers, Paul Sorenson. So, Paul?
Great, thank you, Ken. While I was away this last week, I got the survey results from the survey that we emailed out, and
Did that go to everybody, by the way?
it went
It didn't go to
to,
me. It
really?
was on that, I didn't get it.
It was emailed and then it was on the,
I know.
it was also on the bottom of the newsletter.
Yeah. Oh, that's strange. You're in our database for
I
sure.
hope so.
Well, we sent it to 576 former and current tenants. And it included not just wet moorage, but people in storage
I would have
and in the
responded.
sheds. Yeah, no,
I
well,
would have responded.
yeah, let's get you a copy.
I thought it was random.
We do a lot of these. It came out as a Survey Monkey, pretty simple survey, just a few questions open-ended that then we kind of took a look through. But we got 249 responses. 43% response rate is just really remarkable. You know, usually we're happy in the 10, 15%. And there were some real thoughtful answers. So I thought I'd present to you, we basically asked 4 questions. What do you like about the marina? What do you dislike? What are kind of priorities do you have on improvements? And do you have anything else to say? We also got people to tell us what the characteristics of their boat were, sail, power, length, beam, draft. So we're able to do some crosstabs on that. But you're doing a hell of a job. You know, this was woven through all of the answers, is that the friendliness and helpfulness of the staff and taking care of things when they needed to be, kudos. Yeah.
We all were big fans of Chris and his staff. Everybody who's ever been tied up their boat here appreciates what they do. And,
It's different when you don't have that.
oh, you got it.
Yeah. Location was next, and this included location. Brian, the split in terms of where people live that use the marina is 50% Oak Harbor, 25% Coopville, and 25% everybody else. And that's including Skagit County, Snohomish County, and Kitsap County were the big ones. Outside of Island County.
It seems like a lot of local.
It's local, and I think that's what JJ was talking about, the difference between Des Moines. Des Moines has maybe 25% from the city of Des Moines, and then they're drawing mainly from Seattle. So it's really the difference as to whether you're a local marina or a regional marina. The marinas in Anacortes are regional. Le Conner is a regional marina. They draw from the east side of Lake Washington, and Bellingham is drawing a lot of people out of the Seattle area now. So the bigger the area, the higher the rates, the more financial viability there is in terms of keeping things going. So that's part of what the issue is too, that and a mix of slips that's really on the small side. And particularly it's that people have a choice when they have a small boat to not use the moorage. They can trailer and they can take it home and not leave it here. And when the boat gets bigger, you really can't do that. Right now, marinas are jammed. They have been for several years. There's very few expected new marinas coming on. So it's staying at that kind of area. It's gone up and down. It's really at a high level right now. So quiet, clean, safe. Again, I think kudos to staff. Price, people realize that the prices are lower. And then facilities overall, you can see it drops quite a bit when we get to that, and easy access and covered slips. Community spirit was a big one that people they like their neighbors in the marina. Just a general comment, and then the ramp, I think more that it exists. But I have a list of, I just picked a few of these kinds of comments Staff is wonderful, most beautiful harbor in Washington, well maintained, mostly rates well within reason, close to home, and with 50% in Oak Harbor and 25% in Coopville, there really aren't many other chances for those folks. There aren't very many marinas on the island. There's one down at Langley, and there's one up in Cornet Bay. Yeah, but that's about it for publicly. No.
Well, there's nothing in mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go in there, on a bed.
Yeah.
But the whole feeling of the community too was important to people, that it was a community and that people looked out for each other and that they knew each other. So it wasn't like being in a Seattle marina where you may never really get to know the people that you're with. Dislikes kind of tied between boat launch, ramp, and dock. And whenever we do these surveys, it's kind of a point in time since that's been an issue. I know that it pinged a lot more people, but you can see the number of responses that are here for dislikes aren't nearly as much as for the first 4 or 5 comments on likes. Overall needs.
Is that first comment of boat ramp, boat launch, ramp, and dock, pretty much speaking the same thing as 2 of needing an update?
There are 2 concerns people mentioned. One was the slope of the ramp and that material gets washed up onto it. And then the ramp got broken.
The dock is
Yeah.
up there.
Yeah.
That's gonna go back in pretty
The dock
soon,
got
February.
I have to tell you just a brief anecdote. I was at Festival of Trees a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, and somebody I didn't even know came up to me and started just pointing his finger in my chest about the boat ramp and the dock. And one of the new city council members was there and overheard the whole thing. Brian Stuckey.
Yeah.
He was keenly interested in. I didn't get a chance to talk to him about it, but he overheard this guy just going off about what happened to the dock. My wife almost drowned because she couldn't get in the boat, and I didn't even know the guy, but he knew who I was.
Yeah, no, we've started to receive some of the supplies, and when the fish window closes, when they finish doing their big projects, they're going to ship to us. So it'll be February, March timeframe.
Just as long as it's done before
Yeah, I know.
the spring.
I won't survive.
So
another
just so
one.
you understand, the
I will.
slope of our boat ramps are really shallow because
I don't know how you drown on our boat
originally,
ramp.
if you
You
kind of
should
look
see-
from an
I
overhead
watched the
view,
guy just launch
the
his
seafront,
tender the
the
other day.
base area used to be a
And he
single
had his
base. and it
6-year-old
was-
daughter standing.
There's ramps that come up this way and ramps that go
down.
down that way
And then
on
he
the
had
other side.
way
So
down,
the
climbing
planes
the
would take
tender.
off the
And
Crescent
with
Harbor
his
over
daughter
that
in his
way,
arms.
and then they would fly around
Slippery
and then land
Oh,
this way,
slippery.
and they could. It was so the planes could drive out. They weren't ever built for boats, but we kind of, that's why they're huge. They're just massively wide, but they're real shallow.
I'll
so
send
they
you
go
guys
back all
copies
the
of
way up.
this.
Thank you.
What is the grade of the ramp currently?
It's about 6%. Most boat ramps are 12 to 15.
So we had boat ramps on Colorado River.
And I measured that using this string.
Say, Paul, I'm surprised that was my number 1 complaint. I maybe have included it in the boat launch ramp dock, but no haul out facility.
Well, we did have that. You see, number 4 is lack of stores and BY Boatyard.
BY.
Oh, okay.
That was my.
Right.
Now there were quite a few of them, and that actually links to what we're going to talk about next, which is looking at Mariner's Haven. But there aren't very many places around here to do work or marine repair people. Well, in the island.
Well, no,
Oh, no.
There's
not.
none.
There's not.
There's no,
Not on
I
the
just,
island,
I just brought my boat back from Anacortes just today, because that's once a year. I have to go either to Anacortes or Bellingham. And, it's not easy.
It's difficult when you have a larger boat to get hauled out here, even with Mark's trailer.
Yeah.
That thing scares me to death every time I see a boat on that side. And because we know it's not maintained all that well. And if you put a boat like Byron's, a boat like mine on that trailer, the risk, the potential of it falling or, something catastrophic happening to it is very, very high.
That's amplified by the fact that it is a shallow
It's a
ramp.
shallow ramp.
So, you use a strap between the tow vehicle and.
It's an old
trailer.
fire hose.
And it's pretty Mickey Mouse. Anyway.
Should go see it sometime.
It's pretty frightening. You know, when you have, you know, your couple $100,000 worth of boat sitting on this trailer and it's maintained by a guy who has his issues. Yeah.
So not to get hung up on this one point too, but another one that I hear quite frequently is a lot of the sailors that come up for different events and things like that is there's no place to really step a mast. And I know that overhead crane is like no good because they say that, yeah, and I get it. Like I wouldn't want a whole boat there, but like a pulley system or something alongside somewhere where they could step a mast would go a long ways to eliminating some of those, because I've seen them trying to use two boats and tying them together, and yeah, it's really weird.
So there's not a lot of liveaboards, but being one of them, what do you think some of those liveaboard issues are speaking to are?
What they were writing is that they thought there should be more liveaboards, or that there were curtailments on liveaboard use.
I think one of the biggest things, and I'm not a liveaboard, but I know I feel their pain, is our water system in the marina is, and Chris has been patching this thing together for years and years and years. If it's freezing out there, Chris has no choice but to secure the water, and so now liveaboards don't have any water while the temperature's below freezing.
The pipes will freeze.
The pipes will freeze.
They're scheduled 40.
So I'm going to kind of come to Chris's defense on that. To the liveaboard, when they shut the water off, like it really stinks. Usually they try to give us enough notice that, hey, the water's going to shut off and I can fill my tanks.
Yeah.
But, you know, I have a serviceable boat. Like I live on my boat because I like to use my boat. And I can go out, I can stay out at anchor for about 2 weeks or so before I need to pull in. So I can make it through those. Some of the boats, and then you've done really good on, hey, doing the R2 run, trying to make sure that your boats are serviceable. Some of the boats that people were trying to live on, they couldn't make it 2 weeks, I don't think, without having water or something like that. So, but you did last winter when it was that long snap, you opened up the one of the spigots there in the laundry room, so we could get potable water from there.
But we require liveaboards to be seaworthy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, yeah.
That's why we make the runs in March and August to demonstrate. But with water, we set that up in the laundry room, and that was a big hit. People seem to like that.
And setting the minimum standards too, because there were people that had some pretty small boats.
Yeah, we're 32 now.
So the other ones then were the issues with the docks, issues with distance to the San Juans, service, which I think that was linked with folks that were unhappy about liveaboards, that they were unhappy with staff.
Probably because we stopped the pump outs. Did that mention it all? We used to pump boats out, and we no longer do that anymore.
This is a big issue for the entire sound. I think there's going to be some more work done on that. Yeah, with that no discharge
Somebody
zone.
complained about the Wi-Fi. You got to be kidding me.
Yeah, quite a
That's
few
about the
comments
best-
about
that's the best
that.
Wi-Fi I've seen anywhere.
Well, you got to realize that liveaboard issues was 8, so these are fewer than 8 responses out of that 240 some. So I just wanted you to have all of them. And occasionally there were comments about dogs and debris and trash and oil and shore power, but it looked to me like really were the likes and dislikes were pretty well known. And you know, it's the boat launch ramp and the dock and the dock and the shape of the docks overall, and water depth. It seems like those were the 3 big ones.
Water depth in the docks are the biggest ones that I hear most of the time. And then of course the rates, because they feel like, hey, our rates go up, but they don't visually, you know, like I said, you can raise rates. They don't visually see any bang for their buck. Like, hey, our rates went up. What do we get for it? Nothing. You know, like, great.
Send them my way.
Well, yeah, you know, like I've heard, they're like, our rates went up, and all we got is like they redid their shop up there. I'm like, they've done more than that, but that's a visual thing that they've seen, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about liveaboard, I'm talking about people.
Everybody,
Sure.
yeah. So we got some people that really spent some time. My dock is sinking on one side, it's tilted in the water. The pump out station has old equipment, needs upgrade. Maneuvering at low tide is risky. Slips need more dredging. Shower facilities need upgrade for visitors and residents. It's kind of interesting in terms of the amenities that people say are the most important to them for a marina. Restrooms is number one, and Wi-Fi is number two, and that's before stores or
Before
restaurants.
death.
Well, a lot of our boats are small, and whether we dredge or not doesn't really affect them, you know.
That's probably. That is where.
But it'll become an issue.
Figuring
Well-
things, it's still an issue.
And like CDOC, all of those boats are on the ground at minus 3 foot tide. Every one,
Yeah.
except,
East of you or south of you,
yeah.
because that's where they dredge, between the walkway and the covered moorage at the time.
And, you know, when your boat sits on the bottom, I've had that happen before. It's not good for your running gear. It's not good for your bottom paint, your keel, or, you know, it's not good.
So we have a lot of comments, and what I did is I just went through them all and kind of put them into these different categories. Improvements needed, again, it's the same thing. Dock improvements, boat launch ramp and dock, those kind of fit together. And then water depth or dredging and power improvements, about half the amount of interest really is the docks and boat launch. But I'm wondering whether people really realize that,
I don't think they do.
yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of seasonal use,
Yeah.
and they're using the tides.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good as is was number 5. Wi-Fi, there were 10 people that said Wi-Fi needed improvement. Water pressure, it was out at FDOC, a couple of comments that it was spotty at some times.
It breaks out there a lot.
Yeah, and then you always get some onesie twosies, staff security. Only one mentioned a boatyard specifically, but we didn't ask them. These were open-ended questions, and people said, "This is how I feel about it." So it's always the view of what they're thinking about right now, or what their beef is, or what their praise is. So
Anybody mention the otters?
no,
That's surprising.
Well, they haven't been-
We're signing the
issue.
We're signing a new USDA contract.
getting into the boats.
They're gonna, come and trap the otters?
Yes, that's one of the methods.
Is the other one?
Electrocuting.
Yeah.
We'll see what they do.
That's a big issue. We've been doing a lot of work down in Astoria and Westport and the sea lands, just the kind of damage they
You know,
can
they're on
do.
Van Cove right now. A bunch of, they're rafting together.
They were right down in front of our house,
Yeah.
yesterday morning and this morning.
Sea lions?
Sea lions,
Sea
yeah,
lions.
big rafts. You know,
That's
they raft and they have their flippers sticking up in the air.
I didn't see that. I just.
We
saw
had it
the
right in front of our
videos.
house,
I mean,
and they're barking
there
up
were
a
a dozen of
swarm.
them, but they were not hanging together. They were.
They'll get
fishing.
on, they'll get on R2. Which it still amazes me that they can get up there,
Yeah.
but
These aren't the stellar sea lions we're talking about, are they
Yeah,
really?
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 California, yeah,
Yeah.
the big sea lions, yeah, and they're barking, they're making a hell of a noise out there all night long.
we're pretty fortunate with our harbor seals and where they stay. They don't.
Yeah.
They don't bother nobody.
Yeah.
Don't get on anything. And I think it's a lot to do with that old barge that's out there. Because at low tide, you can see all the mussels and everything. It's just a smorgasbord for them. So they sit
Buffet
on,
line.
yeah, they sit on that breakwater and then just flip off and grab whatever it is they need to eat there.
So again, with this one, we got some really detailed comments from people. I'll certainly pass those through when we put this all together. And then other comments, most of the folks thought that they'd already covered everything. Staff, again, though, of the people that did make comments, always good comments. Price went both ways. We had people complaining that price was too high or what they were paying for. They felt they weren't getting their money's worth. And then others that thought, they've done the analysis and looked at what the other options are and what they would be paying. And the launch ramp, the dredging, water depth, stores, restaurant, a lot of folks thought that the marina was good for town, particularly in bringing in tourists, and that should be really, Brian, woven into a harbor plan. Place to buy food or drink would be nice. Apparently, mortgage holders are paying for prior dredging bonds and future bonds. However, I've not seen any dredging here. So, I mean, there's kind of a myopic vision of what really can be done and how long it takes to do this stuff, to actually get permits for it and then to be able to pay for it. But I think we reached out to people. We got an overwhelming response from them. I appreciate you gentlemen as well talking with me. So we've got some feedback now, and it wasn't trying to push anything in terms of what the issue is moving forward. But I think that's probably going to be something that you'll need to do, is to look at that. As there are redevelopment plans coming forward, that people have an idea of what kind of impact that might have for them. So that kind of,
It's interesting that there's kind of a break between, the small boat people that use the ramp and the rest of us that need water under our slopes.
yeah. I just thought I'd backtrack a little bit. And Brian, I don't know whether you've seen any of the things we've presented before, a couple of PowerPoints, but Oak Harbor and Des Moines are very similar in that the overwhelming majority of the slips are in the 20-foot range, 20 to 29 feet. You see that's the case a little bit more with Edmonds and Everett, but Cap Sandy Marina and Anacortes Marina is a private marina. Elliott Bay, Shell Shoal really have looked at reconfiguring to get more of the boats that are longer. And it's because they need moorage year round. And that's part of the issue, again, going back to being a local versus a regional marina. You're not drawing from a lot of other places. But we did some analysis that there's growth in the number of boats owned by residents in Island County. So there is some opportunity to increase that.
In all these marinas with the larger slips, they have boat yards or
They either have them directly. Everett has one, Edmonds has one, Des Moines has one. Cap Sandy and Anacortes, there's probably 10 yards up there. So they're very well served. At one point, Edmonds was thinking about maybe getting rid of their boatyard. It all had to do with capital improvements and how much it was costing them. And they decided that, they got Jacobson's came in that sells boats, and that increased the use of the boatyard. But it all depends upon the boatyard permits. And they tightened down on them to make it more expensive for the operators.
Look what Everett did when they built the 12th Street boat base, and having the travel lifts at both ends.
Yep.
I mean, having 2 travel lifts in just one location. They're really amazing.
And Bayside, and Bayside's a good example too of, with the negative forklifts, getting boats in the water that way and taking care of the smaller boats. Now, I don't know whether that would work up here from a customer standpoint.
The forklift wouldn't work.
Yeah.
But, I was discussing with Paul, I believe we're the largest Puget Sound marina that does not have a haul out, right?
In its local area, it's probably pretty close to that. Kingston's not too far different. They really don't have one by them.
Well, with the slips, the larger slips, like I've thought a lot about it, and it all makes sense. But this is one of these cases where if you build it, they will come. I don't know that that's true in Oak Harbor, because put bigger slips, the people of Oak Harbor they have the money they have. We don't attract people from too much farther away. I don't know that they're going to just say, okay, because there's larger slips now, I'll buy a larger boat. The majority of them seem like they're pretty happy with the boats they have in crabbing. So
I think that's something that really needs to be looked at. When we did the work for Des Moines just recently, looking at what size slips they ought to have, and we looked at if you resize the marina right now without any overhangs, what kind of slips would you need? And there's, in many of the marinas we work with, there's 4 or 5 feet of overhang. So if you accommodated that and reconfigured everything so that you had a fairway that was 1.5 times the largest slip, that you wouldn't have access problems coming in or out. If you look at how each of these are growing over time, you can kind of pin down what's the best thing for the market. And I think really what I hear you saying is it's not that you don't need bigger slips, it's the question of how many. And that's something I think that really needs to be addressed.
Paul, did you look at some of the surrounding marinas and if they have waiting lists for some of their slips? Like, is there potential for us to take some of that overflow capacity if we had larger slips?
I think that might be difficult. Cap Sandy Marina is run by the Port of Anacortes. They've got somewhere around 700 slips that are for public use. Then they have another 200 or 300 that are commercial boats or for boat dealers, yacht brokers. They have 700 on their wait list now, and that number has grown up like that. But whether those people would want to come down here, we got several comments from people that were from Spokane and from Seattle that going to Anacortes gets them closer to the San Juans, more opportunities. The real problem now is that all of those marinas are full with huge wait lists.
You know, I think the boating community as a whole, I think, Ryan, I don't know if you're right in this one. I think if magically 1 January, Oak Harbor Marina had 35 additional 45-foot or 50-foot slips, I think they'd be occupied in a month.
I bet you did.
I think they would.
There'd be a serious advertising campaign going on.
And I think those people would come to take those slips. Because we have, as much as we're not negative about what we understand our shortcomings here at the marina. This is a wonderful place. I've been in Oak Harbor 42 years, and I love this thing. And I think the more people who come up and put their boats here, they thoroughly enjoy it. They enjoy the community, they enjoy the marina. We just wish we had more to offer.
There are some kind of difficult to nail down things with larger boats, because I know of a couple of larger boats that were moored here for a period of time, and they both had auto start generators, and batteries. And if it happened to occur at a low tide, they would suck up. And so they both said, "Yeah, we're out of here."
Yeah.
Well, also with the wait list, it's not like there's, I'm going to use Anacortes for example. It's not like there's 700 people with boats that have no place to put them. Most likely there's 700 people that already have boats that are already moored in a different marina that are waiting for a place that's closer to the San Juans.
It's a variety of things. It's somebody thinking that they don't like the slip they're in and they want to move and they're on a wait list for a move. And it's people that think they might get a bigger boat and that or get a boat and they're on the wait list. And it also has to do with people being on multiple wait lists. So we usually don't go on the absolute number of the wait list.
Right.
We try and get the marinas to tell us if a spot comes available, how many people do you have to call before it's filled? And that's different for 30-footers than it is for 50-footers. I'm hearing, especially from the brokers right now, that there's just nothing available. It's hard for them to sell the boats. There's no place to put them.
Right.
Typically, when you sell a boat, the slip doesn't go with the boat. That's the challenge. It's not fair to the people on these wait lists if you have to do that. So.
Do we charge to be on the wait list?
We do. $25.
Everybody else does too.
So just kind of rehashing what we looked at here, Brian, and this is really kind of the key, is that expenses are growing faster than revenues. And the net income that's generated from the marina has been averaging about $188,000. There are some categories of costs that I think folks here want to discuss. Those are indirect costs, and other costs that are city charges. But that discussion is all underway. Net income has been pretty volatile, but that's what I look at on the finances. How much revenue are you kicking off that really can pay for the dredging and for the marina development? We did look at open and covered costs and did an analysis of how much lower Oak Harbor rates were. And these are all in rates. This is the moorage rate plus the dredging rate plus the environmental rate. We always look at these all in. It's interesting. Different marinas have different charges that they put into their rate. If you are in Elliott Bay, in Foss Landing or some of those Tacoma marinas, there's a $30 monthly charge for utilities. And others roll that in or don't include it. But it's a significant difference. We've done a lot of rate studies, and typically when we find marinas that are so far below average, we try and do a 3-year or a 5-year program rather than just bumping them 30%, because we're worried about the elasticity, how many people will stay, and particularly with small slips. They've got a choice. And on their behalf, when the city decided to put $1 a foot on for dredging, that was a higher percentage of the rates the smaller boats were paying than the larger boats. So it was a more of a whack to them.
Yeah. So this tells me that those comments about the price aren't really about the cost, but rather the perception of value for what they're paying.
Exactly. So there were a handful of marinas that have been used as the example, and the city averages those and was charging 80% of the average. So basically it underpriced against it, but it never caught up. So basically we see this. Des Moines was the same way, that if you included the marinas that they compete with.
The 80% number, Paul, was an estimate that we used over a long period of time because we don't have some of the amenities of other places and we're a little bit off the beaten path. People are just going from Seattle to the San Juan or something. It's kind of an adventure to get in and out here, and takes some time.
And you got the bridge and all that stuff, where you can just run straight up the outside if you're coming from anywhere from Everett on down.
And going through the Deception Pass is not a significant problem, but timing is. Because there are only a couple of 2 or 3 slacks a day.
So that's where we got that distance, not only with the distance from my house to the marina, but it was also the distance to get here and then to go where I want to go.
So as we move forward, we need to expand our comparison like you guys did, and then target a different percentage rate.
Right.
80% you think is too low?
80% is too low. I would go average.
Just average.
Yeah. And I guess that's going to be something that you'll need to think about. Even if you charge the 90 percentile, that's not going to get you enough money to rebuild a marina.
Well,
So when you're saying,
if you're saying charge the average of everybody else, that still won't raise the revenue that we.
It won't. No, nor will it if you choose.
And
And we're gonna lose.
and you'll lose a bunch
some
of, you'll
tenants,
get the same revenue from fewer people is which will
Yeah.
happen. It's happened before and it will happen again.
Well, it did happen when
Yeah.
the dredging fee
Yeah.
came
Yeah.
on. You can definitely see that made
So that's
people
not the
go.
answer. Revenue from the tenants is not the
Yep, that's
answer
right.
to this question.
I would say that we need to have more than one answer. And I would
I would
posit
agree with
that moorage rates are definitely part of it.
certainly, but if we could use what we all encompass is our mortgage rate, which includes that big pile that goes to the dredge. Like if all of that was given to the marine and somehow we could magically make that dredge fee go away, or the city assume it or something like that, then you're closer to being attainable. It's just that dredge fee that's really kind of weighting us down, because that's a big part of a lot of people's mortgage.
Yeah, we can't get to where we need to be in terms of revenue on the backs of the marina tenants.
That's right.
It just isn't gonna happen. That isn't, it's a non-starter.
Yeah.
The way to get the marina to where it needs to be is we need more help from the city.
And the city has not helped at all for 50 years.
I know.
And that's.
Well, and again, if it's,
You know,
if they want to say it's
50
an
years
enterprise
right.
fund, right, then we need to treat it as an enterprise fund. If you're a tenant of the marina, you have a sticker on your car. If not, pay $3 every time you come in to park your car. You want to walk down the dock, go fishing or go
Yeah.
dragon boating or
Yeah.
whatever, it's gonna cost
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't benefit the tenants and it's a true enterprise fund,
Yeah.
then everybody else
Absolutely.
can be nickel and dime, just like we nickel and dime the boat ramp.
You know, the city always loves to talk about how it's a public park.
Yeah, right.
You know what? It's
Yeah.
not a public
It's
park
not.
if I'm the one that's
It's
paying
not-
for it.
Yeah.
You know, if the city is paying for it, then it's a public park.
Certainly, you know, and nobody wants it to get to like that
No.
because
No.
it is a good draw for the city and nobody wants to look at it and be like, oh, well, they just don't want to, you know, a bunch of rich people don't want us in their marina, but that's not the case at all.
It's not one of those kind of
Yeah,
marinas.
No,
It's
it is not.
One of the really exciting things about this whole process is Paul is going to make these presentations to the city council. And we're hoping that that's going to open some eyes and some doors and stuff. And we'll see where it goes from there, you know, but that's.
It probably will, and they'll probably see, oh, are their rates are too low, just raise the rates.
Raise the
Yeah.
rates.
But you
That's
see the
what they're
net,
gonna see.
the
Yeah.
net income that we need is probably in the $1 million
Sure,
range
yeah.
per year.
Yeah.
And you gotta remember that that's pretty much everything the marina makes. I mean, the marina makes about 1.8 next year, it'll be about 2 million and so on and so on. So,
That's gross.
That's,
yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the whole
Yeah, it
thing
makes
we
makes
need.
that.
right. Well, I mean,
So-
we have a finite number of people, you know, we have a finite number of people come through the marina in terms of fuel sales and stuff like that and transient mortgage. So, I mean, it's a bigger question and Paul, you know,
Yeah.
this question, you know what the question is. Does the city of Oak Harbor need to be in the marina business? You know, what's going to happen when the channel gets impassable, which is not far off? How do we address that issue? I don't think we can address just the dredging inside the marina confines. We have to think about what it's like with the aid out there, you know, and we really, it doesn't do us any good to dredge the marina if nobody can get in or out.
Right.
So,
So I draft 6 foot and I can't, you know, on a low tide, I won't leave the harbor. I mean, I won't leave the marina. There's just no point because I'll hit.
Get out by
Yeah.
yeah,
by
the
by
curve,
number,
yeah, yeah.
that close to.
Well, let's
There's
see
a
what some of the
couple spots where
recommendations
there's
are that he has.
You bet.
So this is again, just going through the background on this too, is that the existing funds aren't sufficient to fund the marina development. And just a rough estimate of what that might cost, thinking now is dredging the basin be about $4.5 million. Now Moffett Nichols going to do an analysis of that and pin that number down. Dredging the channel is unknown. I put in as a proxy $5 million. Redeveloping a marina that has 200 to 300 slips, average size 40 footers, 16 to $24 million. And that's based upon the Des Moines experience. The cost estimates were about a year ago. New breakwater, I put in a proxy there for about $5 million. So we could be low on these numbers, and the range is $30 to $40 million.
We need a breakwater?
Is that- So I had a question. I saw
We
that.
spend a lot of time and money.
Yeah, just
We
repairing.
do a lot of
repairing
repairs.
what's out there, yeah.
Is it, are you talking about creating a new breakwater or
Just
just
repairing.
redoing what's existing, right?
Creating a new one.
A brand new,
The existing
Like-
breakwater,
like a rock breakwater or something like that.
something, yeah,
like that.
yeah, I don't know exactly what it looks like.
Permeable wave barrier or something
Yeah,
that
yeah.
really cuts things down.
We've had so many insurance claims on the existing one. I think Blaine shared with us at the last meeting that the deductible is now up to 100,000. So moving forward, we
Will they
need to
drop our-
explore
we would
getting a
love
new
to
one.
drop
Will they drop the?
We can't because we're tied
But
with
it's an
others.
umbrella for the whole city, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yes, we need a new breakwater.
How deep is the dredge and how many years does that buy us?
Well,
Minus 12 is what we dredged to historically. Currently, in talking to Moffett and Nichols in their presentation, they mentioned that they're not getting permits for anything deeper than the historical dredging process. They'll try for us,
Yeah.
but it's likely going to be a -12. And with our current breakwater, which impedes the sediment and slows it down coming in and going out, it's probably 8 to 10 year dredge. That's what we've done.
Last dredge was 2010.
10 and
Yeah,
11.
2010.
Right on the size.
And that was half the basin.
What's below?
That was half the basin.
That was half the
Yeah,
basin, and they actually didn't do what they should have done, which was remove the piers and the figures.
Yeah.
And they didn't do it.
Well, yeah, the CDOT was covered
Yeah.
and they couldn't get, or it was partially
Partially
covered.
covered.
As part of this dredge project, everything's on the table with Moffett Nichols, redesign, everything. So,
You talked about the ones over by Flintstone Park.
no, over
No.
Moffett Nichols is our engineers, and everything's on the table for the Marina Basin area for that.
That means removing the piers, removing the fingers,
Some
so they
reconfiguration.
can, when they dredged the last time, they didn't remove a lot of the things that should have been removed. So as they were dredging, they were just moving things into the inside the fingers, which became a real problem.
They dredged the fairways.
The fairways. The fairways are nice and
Between
deep.
the-
Nice and deep.
Except for between.
There's a lot of new dredge technology
Between B and C, not so
that
much.
they're looking at.
Yeah.
There's a big hump. But kind of like you're talking about Flintstone, like really if the city wanted to
Move the marina
address,
15 feet.
address some of those issues of restaurants and facilities and things like that. Really kind of doing something there where you can get the transient people and to come over here to use it.
The closed alphys.
Yeah, then they
Yeah,
closed
so
Alphys. But there are some other restaurants. There's Penn Cove and
Yeah.
there's Orlando's, and so I mean, we're starting to do a little bit better down in Pioneer than historically speaking.
So these numbers need to be tested, and I guess this is what Moffett Nichols is going to do, and you'll come up with a new number. But using this number, the debt service would be about $1.5 million to $2 million a year, and that's assuming 4% 30-year bond.
We touched on economies of scale and so forth in an earlier discussion, and Chris, you just made a comment about that everything's on the table, but expanding the basin is, I think, well, first you'd have to have boatyard services too. But theoretically, just having a bigger marina space, we've got docks on the south side of the main walkway, they're on the north side, and we're gonna draw that out. Well, that's pie in the sky. I don't expect that to happen, but it would be interesting to look at what sort of revenue stream that might generate. It would create a whole other problems with parking and, there'd have to be a denial of public access to a lot of the areas. That are
Boatyards make a lot of money. And a city-run boatyard could make a lot of money if run properly.
Then you need haul-outs, you need travel.
Oh, sure,
Yeah.
that's what I mean.
There needs to be the infrastructure for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But again, thinking in, wouldn't it be great if, we'd have a boatyard and travel with and, some upland areas that we could use for other things like just vehicle parking or dry storage and boats.
So outside of reconfiguring the and the dock, the dredging process doesn't require moving of boats.
Yes.
It does.
Yeah.
They all have to go.
It's a big shuffle.
Because this is a long period of time to do the dredge, isn't it? How long does it take?
The dredging itself will only be 2 to 3 months at the most. So it's very well worked. Yeah.
Throughout the marina.
Yeah. And so we'll know where they're going to be and we'll start shuffling boats and stay ahead of them.
Okay, so
We tow them, we have them move them, we do whatever it takes to get them out of
I'll
the
say
way.
some of them might not move.
Yeah. We tow them, whatever it
So
takes.
what's the fish window now? Refresh my memory.
The fish window is January through February, I believe,
Mhm.
this year. So,
Just January?
but you can file for extensions and get deeper into the February timeframe.
Like outsiders swimming around,
You can't disturb the
You can't
fish
disturb the fish.
is it spawning or what?
No,
Just because they're there.
just because they're there.
they may swim through. Because the darn things will go wherever they.
They never.
But that leaves you some winter months to
Right.
do it. So,
Yeah.
you don't have the transient.
But you don't
know,
have, you don't have people that are leaving you approving for a month or so.
Or crabbing. Yeah. A lot
We'll
of
figure
it.
it out.
Yeah.
We did before.
So the bottom line from my perspective is that rate increases and also cost savings really are not going to generate enough net income to pay for things. So we looked at a number of options. One was to do a larger community harbor plan, and thinking about your experience with general aviation, there's a federal program that can pay for a lot of that funding. There's nothing like that for marinas. There are now some federal funds, and there are also state funds and even some county funds, but they're all linked to job creation for the most part, and also possibly to transportation. So if there were, some link to if something happened with the bridge, being able to get off the island, some emergency use, there may be some funding there, as well as maybe some parks funding.
Are those available for city-owned, private-owned, as opposed to Port Authority? Like, what's the funding access?
Yeah, they are. Cities can apply for a harbor funding. There's the Port Infrastructure Development Plan funds, Economic Development Administration, Maritime Administration. So all of those, it's just having the case to say that. Port of Anacortes is working on a dock called T-Dock right now, which is a commercial dock. There's $15 million a year of seafood product that goes across that dock. So it's easy for them to say that generates this many jobs, and that's what most of these agencies want to see.
How much revenue does our crabbers do?
Not near,
Not-
not even a
not like
million.
that.
No.
Really?
Yeah.
I see trash cans after trash, the big 55-gallon drum, trash cans after trash cans being hauled out of there.
They were getting three and a quarter a pound this year.
Yeah,
I've seen it
this
as high
year
as 8,
Yeah, this year.
but 3 and a quarter was really bad.
Right.
But we need to think about every one of
Right.
those. And your idea earlier, Ryan, the last meeting, I think, was to look at the needs of the Coopville folks when they're redoing their pens or servicing their equipment.
Mhm.
They're going to Everett right now. If that were able to be cheaper for them to do here, then that would be generating more economic development.
I mean, Ian Jeffords, is that what we're talking about? He sends all his stuff to Everett?
That's what I was told. Is it, where else are you gonna take it out?
Yeah, you got a point.
I think there's some,
You used to do
Some-
He used to do some of it.
some
yeah.
bad feelings between them and Mark right now.
Is it from that big stainless boat that they launched out of there?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I just think that
But I think these things have to be really creative. We see the Port of Bremerton now at Port Orchard Marina looking at, they need to replace their breakwater. And there's a county ferry in Kitsap County that overnights there. And so they're trying to use that to tie into transportation funds.
There was a
Get a seaplane.
move years ago that, to replace the old Mailer Pier out in front of the condos down there. And I had the misfortune being in that place for a long time. But we were able to get some federal money for the planning process because, well, they weren't at all interested in a day use pier for transient boaters and a better link to downtown, that kind of thing. They weren't interested in that at all. But when we started categorizing it as an intermodal transportation facility,
Right.
bingo, that was it.
You have to talk their language.
Yeah.
And I think there's potentially a case to do
So,
that.
we talked about if something happened to the bridge, mosquito fleet type boats could tie into Oak Harbor and so forth, and that triggers then dredging of the channel as well as, the proximity of
If you look at a little small harbor like Deer Harbor, like there's hardly anything there, but they have seaplanes that come and go all day long. And they have the end of one little pier. So if you did something like that, linked it, and you could convince one of the seaplane companies to come, then.
Well, we did.
Yeah,
Tried that
Kenmore,
some of the
yeah.
times.
Yeah, and the key is the Navy. When Kenmore was flying here, they said they could keep it going if they could get the Navy to use it, and they could never get a contract. with
The
the
Navy used it for a while, and
Yeah.
then they stopped. They thought it was
But it was-
cheaper to send vans down to
Vans,
SeaTac to
exactly.
pick up the
Yeah.
arriving sailors. But I mean, we've all flown that Kenmore Air.
Yeah.
Now it's in there,
That's great.
in sailors' orders, and it's been a long time since you've seen orders.
Yeah.
But it's in sailors' orders when they come to book with the SeaTac shuttle.
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
like really, that's how we transport sailors. Tell them.
Well, we used to have 6 flights a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, 6
Oh,
round
yeah.
trips a day.
So cool.
When I first started working, they would come in there to the north side of the main waterway there.
Oh, the seaplane base, yeah. Oh, the
No,
seaplane,
no,
oh, right,
seaplane.
right, the seaplane would come into
Yeah.
the marina.
Yeah, there was a low
Yeah.
level.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and,
That was fun.
and it just wasn't viable.
So the other parts of the harbor plan would be looking at some upland development, Mariners Haven and other areas to figure out, is there a way to get more lease money that helps pay for that debt service? And this is the main one that we see the port authorities using. That's what the Port of Skagit is looking at now for La Conner Marina, is to redevelop that peninsula that's between the two basins, make it housing, lease it out to a developer, get money and use that to improve the marina. So, these are all potentially options. And then public-private partnerships. Quite a few of the other cities are doing this right now, and it's a trade-off really of not having to put the capital into it and doing that from the city's perspective, having a private partner do that, and then get a reduced lease rate. So the city of Seattle has 2 marinas in Lake Washington, and the city of Tacoma has 2 in Foss Waterway. And they're pretty happy with the way that's working for them. However, it's still included in Seattle's case, the city putting in capital funds as well. That's kind of a negotiated solution.
With that larger harbor plan or any of that public-private partnership, it almost hinges on being able to link the marina with Flintstone Park, like this area right up here, because we're kind of landlocked. You can't go any farther this way because of the Navy base,
Right.
And that's all you got.
Yeah.
I mean, we barely.
And the questionable ownership of
The
that,
upland area.
yeah.
Yeah. So those are the options. Privatization is something that I think you should think about. And then getting an operator that's coming in that would help pay for some of that capital funding.
What private company would take something that generates $188,000 a year, knowing that they need to put 30 million into it?
Well, that would be the
I would fire
negotiated
that
part, but what they would think is that we need to reconfigure, build bigger slips, charge the market rate for those slips, and then reduce the cost to operate the marina.
Sure.
And since some of these companies have multiple marinas, they've already got all the accounting systems and billing systems and everything built. That's a marginal cost increase for them. And there's some good ones around that do that, but that has to have the right feel to it too. I mean, a lot of public agencies think that you'd be losing too much control over how it's managed and what happens. That would be another process too, would be just to privatize it completely, maybe making it into a condo marina where, like part of Anacortes Marina is, or some of the other ones that are around.
Like selling and sell off the new slip.
Buy your stuff.
Yeah. Those condo marinas, you buy it at a certain point, and then if there's an improvement, it's like an assessment, like, a condo upland. So you take care of all of the members of the condo association pay for it.
Isn't Anacortes Marina going through that right now?
When they originally built, they condominiumized most of it. They weren't able to do that with the smaller slips. So they own the smaller slips, and they're in the process now of, I think, pretty much rebuilding as it was. It's easier to get permits to do it the same reconfiguration.
Is the HOA putting the bill for that, or?
Yeah, they'd have to be part of it, and their rates have increased 8% per year for all of the slips that they leased out. Then as a part of the dredging plan, beginning the reconfiguration, I think, would really give you an idea of what you're really looking at. You know, a lot of the genesis for doing this was Department of Natural Resources thinking that the harbor lease area, that would need to have a business plan associated with it to kind of define how big that footprint is.
As part of the dredging plan, we received authorization from the council to move forward with Moffett Nichols last week. And that was on the dredging piece. Now we've started the conversation with them about reconfiguration, and we'll go back. That'll be a contract amendment, and we'll go back to the council and get authorization. We did lay the groundwork Tuesday night for that second contract amendment. And I felt like the council was really supportive of us exploring options there. So what's it going to cost? I don't know at this point, but it seemed like the city council was interested in us.
Are they interested in knowing the fact that historically the marina tenants have paid for it all?
They have not seen this presentation yet.
I mean, because
this is scheduled
realistically,
for January.
Yeah.
End of January workshop.
if I were them, I'd be really excited about the marina getting dredged on the, by us.
Yeah, sure.
I'd be really
Yeah.
excited about that too.
So,
They have to realize, and maybe Paul, you can help them realize
Yeah,
that this is just, it's becoming too much.
Non-starter, yeah.
It's becoming too much.
Yeah.
And, condos would be a great idea, except for you, look at the boats that are in the marina. How many of those sailboat people would buy their slips? Not many.
you'd have to get up into the 36-foot range, maybe some of the 32s, but I think 36 would be the big bull buying.
We did some work at Semiahmoo,
Oh,
and most of those slips were not owned by the user.
really?
They just bought them as a real estate
That's a real
deal,
estate investment.
and then leased them out.
What would they go for? 200, 100,000, 200?
Yeah, that's the ballpark, and however, it's been ramping up. So I don't know really
Well,
what
that's an interesting.
Semiahmoo is a super nice.
Yeah, it's a
It is, yes.
nice facility.
Yeah.
they need a breakwater though. That's the big problem. they have.
Skyline is, I think what are those slips go for? They're closer to 100.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Something like that.
There aren't many for sale. I haven't seen one for sale. in a long
No,
time
it's-
yet.
it's-
There was one not too long ago. that
They
I
go
saw.
fast.
Yeah, they do go fast.
It was like 125 for a 40-some foot slip.
Skyline has several condo associations in it too. It isn't just one group.
Yeah, but along the main walkway there, it's kind of where the security gate is, and you walk
Yeah.
out there. Those are all privately owned slips. And Marie Piper, remember Marie
I
Piper?
remember.
She subleased a slip there for a long time. Had a lot of money for it.
Mhm.
But, and then she tried to buy it, and it didn't happen.
So all options that, I just wanted to lay out for you from a business perspective, where you're at right now, where we think you need to go. We need to tighten up those numbers with the work Moffett Nichols doing.
Yeah.
And then there are a bunch of options that are available, but it's got to be the one that fits. So I hear what you guys are saying. And Byron, you said before too, that even if the city decides that they don't want to have a marina, that's not going to be costless either.
No.
No,
it's gonna be
no.
a huge
So
cost.
there may be some grants associated with that kind of process, but they're not going to cover the full cost.
And talking about is, if we abandon the marina, someone would have to put the bill for all the, returning everything back to nature.
Taking out all the pilings and
All the docks.
You-
What was it you told me, like where the harbor master?
Just pictures of that window Before the meeting, I don't
think about that.
No, it's not.
No, you know, I think that's neat.
Yeah,
It has to be on the table, because that's
that's a reality.
a very, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's about it. Yeah, the tax sales, yeah.
Trying to get people to vote it. Like, most people see Port Authority as solely a taxing agency instead of a revenue generating agency. It's hard. It's tried it twice in the last this one. People just don't. They just say the trolls come out there and say, here's what you want you to get there, and it's going to tax the shit out of you. And
We started in 1991. We had the base,
Well,
the base
well,
voters
yeah.
here and so forth, and then the scramble around and ideas to live after base voting. But at the same time, we're putting up the idea of on the board. It's kind of a process. You have to have state elections. Because that time you only have one per county or something. That's not really.
No, that's happening now. Yeah, that's the way they want to. It's too difficult. Pittsburgh is a really example. We've got all these small port authorities, and they don't have a big taxing basis to generate the revenue they need for the infrastructure. Yeah. So I guess the option would be if people were to expand, but they need, $10 million to rebuild their dock. And their registration would have to vote for it, and then everyone would have to vote for that as well. It's not that it can't be done, but it's not a downhill road.
The way that was set up was you also had to run a slate, you had to have a slate of commissioner candidates at the same time to authorize them. So if you were able to do that, you were able to select candidates for commissioners and only require 3 votes. But it did fail. I'm not very much. We did find out about it later. We just worked on it. We find out about it people said, "Oh, I got it 50 times a week." And we yes. Well, okay. We said that, you know.
I talked to an organization for yes. I talked to their director 5 years ago. He told me that there hasn't been a new court district in Washington in decades. So
It's going to
maybe your Northwest Marine Trade Side, you know more about it.
Well, I remember WPA as well. They had it for years and years now, 30 years probably. And I think there haven't been any new ones. Ports do have some great options. They get tax, so they have a property tax. They also are able to do industrial development levies, which is an additional property tax for 3 year period. And support Townsend right now, Port Townsend is using that to rebuild the jetty at Port Hudson, and also some of the work they can do this year. And they have access to other funding sources as well. But that's got tough to do. I think it maybe shouldn't be off the table, but I think Patsy Martin, who used to run the Risk Candidate, is the director now at WPA. But I haven't heard anything that happening recently. No, that's true.
Any more questions on the subject before we jump into the next subject? There's no further longer to
I wanted to show you what the steps are. So we've done the review of marine operations and we had assessment of the so we'll get you that report coming up in the next couple of weeks and the presentation to City Council. All of this.
I'll get you the date. We just made a placeholder for it, so we'll confirm the date. Yeah.
We'll do a group report that summarizes everything we showed you in the slides and then another presentation will come up. That was the City Council.
Yeah, but I do think it's so important to stress that the test candidates are looking at, that there's going to be a chance of being slow down too, with mortgage increases and all that, and the city has to know that they're going to have to do it.
Yeah, so on Tuesday night, that's why we just received authorization and we'll just get to it. This is moving forward with the business plan and started the budgets. So we got to get to go with scope of the review, so we're on the same page.
Very similar to the business plan. For some operations, but it was taking us for irrigated uses and storage, use patterns. And since you don't have any here, it would be a question to do it yourself versus backyard yard. I'm not going to system.
You're looking at running the yard for the city.
Yeah,
I know actually what the
they went to food skyline. They picked up Port Townsend agents. Yes, people are using the food service right now. That's just on average.
Yes, as I mentioned, conversations with construction, these have started to do some other stuff. That's pretty exciting. Joint feasibility, that's right. So you can see my on the north side of the here. We built that last year. It's not so having one there, so that's really cool. The budget has passed, so I think we're just like a big driver. We're in the budget. Other than the funds, it's going to be really years, long walkway and utilities. That's how $250,000 price tag. We do others ourselves, there's lots of electricity and lots of water lines and lots of applications. We just don't know which one.
Yeah, but the new one, the year.
Oh, that's $50,000. It's going to be 18 inches. You need a sound slope down the south end. You're probably going to build it there on the top there. That's really lower down. It really is not really change. Up here is not going to change. Just could change. But when it fails, then you might be less another stuff. From the development office to your shape by Joshua. So much happening there, and then bring software. The next month we do the section manager, and we're going to speak because what will be a lot deeper into it. We're really option for that because we have to do the next week. That's not seeing so. And that's what we do.
Parts and pieces for the okay.
That's what you'll see was pieces. Pieces. Trigger charges was the it's not saying we have a great conversation. You have to help me.
Next meeting is January 9th.
I'm actually the application the 21st with the first Monday. Yeah, so you have to decide January 9th.